In a peaceful Turkish town surrounded by lush hills and cobble streets, there lived a beautiful German shepherd named Thor. Thor was a special dog, known not only for his proud, handsome appearance, but also for his intelligence and curious habits. His owner, Layla, would take him for a walk every day through the town, and people would often stop to pet him or compliment her on such a well-behaved, loyal companion. Thor was loved by the entire neighborhood, and many people would greet him even if they didn't know Layla personally. Their walks were a daily ritual, a moment of calm and routine that Thor seemed to deeply enjoy. Each time he would walk alongside Layla with an elegant step, his ears alert to every little sound. Despite his size, Thor was incredibly gentle, moving quietly as if he didn't want to disturb the peace of those around him. Layla and Thor were inseparable, and anyone who saw them could feel the strong bond they shared. One day, however, something changed during one of their usual evening walks. They were almost at the small butcher shop, where Layla often bought treats as a reward for Thor's patience and gentleness. But just a few meters from the shop, Thor suddenly stopped, locking his gaze on an old rusty grate by the sidewalk. Suddenly, he began barking with an intensity Layla had never seen before. Thor stared at the grate, barking so forcefully that a few passers-by stopped, alarmed by his unusual behavior. Layla tried to calm him, petting him and speaking softly, but Thor wouldn't budge. He stood firm in front of the grate, his eyes focused as though trying to communicate something. After a few attempts, Layla managed to distract him, and they continued on their way. But she couldn't stop thinking about her friend's unusual behavior. For the rest of the evening, she watched him carefully, trying to understand what had caught his attention so intently. But that night passed without incident, and Thor seemed to have returned to his usual calm self. The next day, Layla decided to be vigilant and watch every detail of Thor's behavior during their walk. As they approached the same grate, Thor stopped, fixing his gaze intently on it, tilting his head as if trying to hear something from within. This time he didn't bark, but Layla could feel his tension. After a moment, he sat down in the middle of the street, staring at the grate with an expression Layla had never seen before. It was as if there was something down there, something only he could sense. Layla walked over to the grate and tried to look inside, but the daylight wasn't enough to see clearly. All she could hear was a faint, almost inaudible meowing. Her heart raced as she moved away from the grate with Thor, but she couldn't shake that sound or what it might mean. That evening, she told her husband Murat, who initially reassured her, saying that Thor had probably just heard the sound of some small animal. But the next day, Thor behaved the same way, stopping beside the grate, watching it with careful determination. This time, Layla decided to take action. During the walk, she stopped by the grate and decided to leave a few treats near the opening, hoping to lure out whatever creature was inside. But Thor wasn't interested in the food. He continued to fix his gaze on the grate, as if sensing something deeper. The following evening, as Layla and Thor neared the grate, the dog did something completely unexpected. Without warning, he grabbed a package of sausages that Layla had bought earlier, and with a serious look, he approached the grate. Instead of eating, he began pushing the sausages toward the opening, as if he were feeding something inside. Layla, astonished, watched in silence, wondering what could make Thor act in this way. At that point, Layla realized there was more to the grate than she thought. She decided to call for help, and within minutes, the firefighters arrived. As soon as the rescuers moved close to the grate, Thor positioned himself in front of them, growling slightly, as if he were protecting whatever was inside. Layla calmed him, explaining that they were there to help. After a few moments, they managed to move Thor aside and carefully lifted the grate. With the help of a flashlight, one of the firefighters looked inside the grate and saw a sight that left him speechless. There, curled up and trembling, were tiny kittens staring back at him with wide, frightened eyes. The firefighter rescued them one by one, and in total he found 4 kittens, all malnourished and shivering from the cold. Thor watched each movement intently, as though he were overseeing the entire rescue. It was almost as if he understood what was happening and wanted to make sure the little ones were safe. A crowd had gathered around, watching in silence, moved by the courage and dedication of this extraordinary dog. Some onlookers were brought to tears seeing Thor's determination to save the helpless kittens. The rescuers took the kittens to the veterinarian, where they were treated and nourished. Thor remained watchful until they were safe, and only then did he seem to finally relax. That evening, Layla brought Thor home with a sense of pride and admiration for her loyal friend. In the following days, the kittens were cared for in a shelter, where they quickly regained strength and soon found new homes. But the whole town remembered that incredible rescue, and Thor became a local hero, the dog who had saved those tiny, defenseless creatures, driven only by his instinct and his great sensitivity. Thank you, Thor, for reminding us that courage and kindness have no boundaries, and for showing us that sometimes our four-legged friends understand more than we can ever imagine. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more extraordinary stories like this one. Go ahead, start now. Watch the next exciting video.